Hi, and welcome back to Bali Today. Well, the person responsible for designing one of the most fantastic lines of clothes, for me personally, I just love it. I love all the bright colors. I love all the different textures, is my guest today. So I'm so excited. I want to introduce you to Paul Ropp. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
I feel funny introducing you. I'm sure everyone already knows you. You're Mr. Media.
They know the clothes. They don't know the men.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And I've sought you out. When was this? What year? I know
78. I came over from India from I went to India in 71 from New York, where I was born and raised, New York City. And if you wanted to leave your society and begin to understand what else is happening out there, places like Goa, places like Bali, were just beckoning for some participation, some collaboration. And I was lucky enough to be one of those people who got there in the beginning of the evolution, when it was changing from a indigenous, exclusively Indian or Konkani environment to where the foreigners were coming in and bringing a taste of their own culture, and the restaurants started appearing. Because when I came to Bali, between here where we're sitting in Cafe Warasan, there was one restaurant between here and the airport, and there was no electricity.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to make a telephone call, you had to go to the international airport, because that was the only place to make a telephone call from. There was no cellular phones, there were no direct lines, it didn't exist. And it was one different type of life. It was a wonderful life. And as long as you were respectful of the Balinese, and if you knew a few of the Balinese children, and you knew the dogs' names, we all walked. You had to know the dogs' names, because we were all walking on these little gongs. There were no cement roads. There were no one had motorcycles or cars. It didn't exist. One or two of us had bicycles. I was a walker. So if you knew the names of the dogs, they'd start barking. You'd call their name. They'd cool it. And just keep on walking. If you knew the kids, the parents would come out and smile, and you knew you were okay.
When you first came to Bali, did you feel at that point that you'd be staying for the next 20 years, or what were you thinking at that time?
Well, Bali has a few of its own drawers, if you will. I tell the foreigners when they come to Bali, you got to watch out. There's two things. When you leave, you want to return, and when you return, you want to build a house, and then you want to start a business. But in my case, it was a little bit different. I came to Bali, like I said, to deliver Midday, help deliver Midday, and when I enjoyed Bali so much, I was just getting involved in business in New York, and I would get emails. It wasn't emails, excuse me. In that era, it was texts. It was telexes. And the telexes would come in and say, "Paul, you said you were finished with the beach, so now what are you doing back on the beach? You said you wanted to work. What are you doing on the beach?" So ultimately, I had to create products on the beach so that people back in New York would be okay with me not being there.
And stop hassling you.
Well, now I don't go to the beach much. I just, doing a lot of work. But we created a PMA in Bali.
How many PMAs were there in existence when you did this?
We were the second PMA in Bali, which is a joint venture authorized by the government of Indonesia for the operation of manufacturing and export. And when I came to Bali, the banks didn't know how to deal with letters of credit. We had to teach them. Alpha Sigma was our freight forwarder at that time, and no longer, but we had to teach them how to use letters of credit. And then Pacific Express became our major shipper. And in the old days, you did everything on a handshake. One day I needed $1 million to fill an order. The banks wouldn't give it to me in Bali with a letter of credit that authorized it, because they didn't know how to work with it. But Rose, the owner of Pacific, gave me $1 million on a handshake.
I'd never seen a shop like yours, and I was here on my first investigation of Bali trip, and I walked into your shop in Kuta, down there in that little fashion square, and the colors and the textures of the material, it was just the most satisfying. And I'm not really a shopper, I don't like to shop, but I always like to go into fabric stores and just see all those things, and you've collected them from, I think, all over the world, right?
Well, no, actually, I've been working in India for about 40 years, and most of the things that we do are hand-woven in the homes. indigenous of the labor-intensive areas of development for each of the homes, and rather than spending 8 hours in the field, the mother will come in on the loom for a couple hours, and the father will come, and then it's hand embroidered, hand embellished, hand beaded. In your case, it's all of that,
Yeah.
and then it's airbrushed. So it's block printed, airbrushed. That, by the way, that you're playing with, that after we do our production, that's usually what I used to pay people to come with their trucks and take away.
Yeah.
But now what we do is we've taught the villages all over Bali how to reproduce these things, and we take the waste off the floor, and instead of paying people to take it away, 18% of my company's income is derived from what we sweep off the floor and put in your earrings or the shoes or the bags, or recycle, labor intensive, but in the village, so that people can stay there as opposed to coming to the cities and looking for work.
That has definitely changed the character of Bali. I know.
Well, it adds to the character of Bali, to the culture of Bali, the village of Bali. The kampung of Bali is really what, we enjoyed the most when we came here. It wasn't so much the industrialization of Bali.
I wanted to ask you, being part of that Goa Trail and that anti-capitalistic thing, which, we were in that generation, what motivated you then to create this amazing international empire of your clothing? If it wasn't that typical capitalist rule the world thing, what was it?
Survival. When you're living in Asia and you're a Westerner and you run out of money, you've got to do something.
Now, what would you have rather been than a clothing designer?
I would have rather been a smuggler.
What happened?
Well, the fact is that I wasn't either crazy enough, or in reality, I couldn't keep a secret, so it was a wrong industry for me to go into.
I understand. I wanted to be a spy, like a secret agent, but I can't keep a secret.
No, I was lucky. Not having money, I was making my own clothes for myself, and people would say, "Gee, where'd you get that from?" And I'd say, "Well, I made it. Can I make something for you?" And they say, "Sure," and I'd make it for them, and word of mouth, it just became that way. And I was walking down the beach with a very famous American artist called Peter Max, in a place where I lived for many, many years called Fire Island, a little island with no cars, no motorcycles.
So you were Bali, you were Goa, you were Fire Island as well. Oh, my God.
I'm an island boy, but we get island fever sometimes. We've got to go somewhere else. And I said, China's opening up. I'm going to go make some Chinese Tibetan T-shirts. And he said, go. So I wound up in Bombay. I'm walking the streets of Bombay, and I run into an old friend of mine, Texas Jack. And Texas Jack says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to go make some Chinese Tibetan T-shirts." He said, "Geez, I know a guy over there. He's making these wall tankas from Tibet." I said, "Great, let me go over and check it out." I walked into his studio. I said, "Forget about tankas. Let's make T-shirts." They're now in museums.
Oh my God, is this the Chairman Mao
the
style
Buddhas,
thing?
no, the Buddhas, the Garudas, the dancing skeletons, 23 hand silk screens on each T-shirt. And as I say, now there are T-shirt museums all over the world, and it was the first product I really made where I made textile. And it led to being in an opportunity where someone came to me, "Come to India, make a collection." It turned out to be the best collection to come from India that year, luckily. And by accident, we were taking the fabrics that all the babysitters and mothers would use to wipe the children's backside after they went to the toilet.
You're kidding.
And we made fashion out of it.
Is that what I'm wearing?
No. That's the evolution of it.
Thank you. Came along at the right time, didn't I? Well, I know that you're just opening in Thailand, too. That's new.
Well,
You've been going there for a while, though, haven't you?
No, actually, we opened in Thailand 2 years ago.
Oh.
I've been going for many years, but never could really find the right place, right time. I was riding camels with a bunch of my friends. I had 15 friends I was taking into India from all over the world. And we're riding to these concerts promoted by Mick Jagger and one of the people that were with us, where we would take music people from all over the world, introduce them to the indigenous musicians of each of these little villages, mix the music together. And 15 of us were riding camels across the desert on the Pakistani-Indian border. And one of them was Gulu Lavani, a multi-billionaire, and he said, "Geez, I just built this marina in Phuket. It's been awarded the best marina in Southeast Asia. Would you come and open up one of your stores? So I wound up setting up a company in Thailand, and we do Thailand. We have 7 stores now. In Bali, we have 9 stores. And we're opening up in Surabaya, and it seems to be Asia, because Asia's growing and the West is in atrophy.
That's true. But I want to ask you, because take credit where credit is due, of course. Your marketing is very inventive as well. I think you have a different style of marketing than any of the other designers on the island. I read a few years ago about your idea of promoting the shop in a box, right? How's that going? Or who do we have to blame for your marketing?
Well, actually, shop in a box is the concept. You know, Bali is so talented in its artisans and its availability of wood, so we created a concept where we literally build, you give us the design, the floor plan of your store, your destination, and we will create within our image department the store, manufacture it here, put it in a container, ship it off to you. And with that, that's why we've been able to do 33 countries now and exporting to 33 countries.
So it was a good idea. I was right. I read
without
it.
Without a salesman. My company does not have a salesperson.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
We do not do a trade show. We simply walked in the other direction. We figured do it as best as we can. If we're good at it, people will come and find us, and that's what's happened. That's the way we build up our marketing.
Well, this is the innovation. This is the innovation. And this has been your belief all along, hasn't it? That don't do it.
Well, I used to do the New York shows. I used to do the Rome shows, the Milan, the Tokyo. But they became so expensive, prohibitive. It's the direction of yesterday. It was good for yesterday. But for now, people with a little bit of vision, you can create your own way of method of marketing. For us, the web is the future. And for us, it's just become better at what we do. And word of mouth will get the word out, and the buyers will come.